Now, constituents of Constituency 114 have endorsed one of the parliamentary aspirants, Karim Bah, to run as an independent candidate for the newly established Constituency 114 in the eastern of Freetown. Now, the constituency covers part of Calabar Town and Wellington and includes Concedar Lane, Rubis, Kasama Street, Alfred Terrace, parts of Mayankine, Pamoronko, Old Wharf, Bottom Oko and Tassel Island. The constituency has a voting population of over 63,000 people. Karim Bah joins us this morning to share more on his aspiration on becoming a parliamentarian. Good morning and welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Great to have you here. I guess the first question would be, why the decision to go as an independent candidate?
Well, that's the question I think everyone is interested in. I think that the previous parliament, we have learned that the party politics in Sierra Leone, this blind loyalty to colours and empty or meaningless slogans, you know, like Tulumbu and or YE or things like this, have really debased the level of thinking and level of discourse in Sierra Leone. So I will say that the parliament is an area of serious debate. And most times we have seen that parliamentarians have gone to parliament and they have failed really to represent their people effectively. They have been stifled by mostly parliaments who wants them to just stay in line with what the president or the party in power wants. You know, so we need to break that stranglehold, and really we are tired with these failed parties. And I think that what we are beginning to show is to show the people that there is an alternative to this colorblind voting, that we need to think very seriously before we cast our votes, especially for parliament, because parliament is a very, very important arm of government. It's very powerful. You know, they can even impeach the president. They can supervise the work of the president, the cabinet, and the judiciary. So it's a very powerful arm of government. And so far we have seen that there has not been enough debate and people who are going there to actually raise very, very critical issues. So I don't want to be bound by these traditional parties. I don't want to be bound by party discipline, especially parties that do not have real economic and political philosophies and ideas, you know. So I am showing that I want to passionately push an independent agenda, which is being a critical voice for economic justice. And I've done a lot of work and a lot of research and advocacy before. And I think I want to continue that advocacy using the parliament as the platform to really now bring about serious discussion in the country and in the parliament in terms of how we can advance democracy, in terms of how we can advance economic justice and economic emancipation in the country.
Now, you've spoken about the two main political parties, and, you know, talking about how the political parties have failed the country. But one would ask that there are new parties that have emerged. So are you saying that these parties also are towing the line of the two main parties that you have mentioned?
What you have is a breakaway factions of the two main political parties. So with the exception of one or two, say Unity Party led by Femi Claudius Cole, and perhaps, I don't know, one or two others who are like, you know, not sort of breakaway factions of these two parties. The rest are just breakaway factions. And given that the time is very short to have a formal alliance and also to discuss seriously our ideas with these new parties, because I am going into politics because I seriously believe in certain ideas and the fact that these philosophies, these ideas need to be in the national discourse. You know, so we have not had enough time with these new parties who are not breakaway factions, because I don't think that breaking away from one party to another because of power struggle, that's the main thing. You know, I think that people who break away from parties, you know, maybe you'll understand if they have a different ideological position or they bring something ideologically, philosophically, economically different from the parties they have been working with. But if they just break away because they have a disagreement over who should lead, then I don't think there's a principled institution for me to work with. So in the future, I hope that we'll work with new emerging parties, especially those that are not breakaway factions, to see how we can begin to form a real alternative in this country, not breakaway factions, you know. So in that regard, I think that these new parties should begin to discuss after the election, how do we form a kind of understanding of what we believe in and what we can work together on, because people have different ideas and ideologies, but we have to put them concretely on the table to see that we can work on these ideas. And for me, the issue of economic emancipation and economic justice are fundamental and one of the key things I want to push in Parliament. So I cannot work with parties just because they are new. We have to agree on some principles, on some philosophies and some ideologies.
All right, before I ask you the next question, this question would obviously be preceding, of course, the next one. Now, who is Karim Bah?
Karim Bah, I have been an activist for over 20 years in the struggle for peace and democracy in Sierra Leone. I was part of the underground movement for democracy when the elected government was overthrown by a junta in the 90s. We organized at the time with students and non-students to actually engage in the campaign, even being part of the student movement that organized the August 18 demonstration against the junta. I've been an advocate and champion for Black consciousness, African liberation, democracy, peace. I've been a journalist. I've worked as a journalist. I've worked, after the war, I worked with NGOs like Network Movement for Justice and Development, where we engaged in youth advocacy and as well as challenging the PRSP principles that, that was being put forward by the then government, as well as bringing up issues of the question of the natural resources. So I've always been part of that. I've also worked for UNDP as head of communications in Sierra Leone. I've also worked in Papua New Guinea. So in terms of formal work, paid work, I have over 20 years of paid work. But doing that, I've also been engaged in voluntary work, engaging the states, engaging in community actions to bring about radical change. As you know, I'm part of a movement called the Movement for Social Progress. And our overarching objectives and our goal in the future is to begin to think about how we form an alternative political party with others. We don't think that one person can do it. We believe that this is the process for us to meet the people and start to think really what kind of political agenda, what kind of alternative politics and economics can liberate this country. So this is just the beginning.
Now, having mentioned who you are, and obviously you've got track record of, like you have mentioned, experience in what I would say in the private sector. But one would say without any political experience, how are you going to fare? Well,
civil society or all kinds of activism is political, in the sense that politics is not necessarily vying for political office. That's just one part of politics. Engaging the states, challenging the states, and bringing ideas, alternative ideas, is part of political engagement, because politics should not be limited to just vying for elections. That's politics with a big P. But politics with a small p means that you have been constantly engaged. And as a Pan-Africanist, Pan-Africanism is a political concept. It's a political philosophy, which is about, advancing the interest of people, changing the conditions of African people so that our people will live in dignity. And you cannot talk about changing the lives of people without talking about politics and economics. So for me, really economics is about politics. Politics is really about economics. So I think I've been a political activist, so I've been introducing myself not as civil society activist all the time. In fact, I've been saying I'm a political activist. It means that by challenging those in power, you are also engaged in politics. You know, so this is an extension. This is taking it to a level where you don't need, you have to start the experience. You don't need to have been in parliament to be a parliamentarian, to be an effective parliamentarian. Otherwise, those who are there were not there before. They only started at some point. So this is the beginning for me.
Yeah, but you like you mentioned, you don't need to have, contested the political seat, contest for a political seat to be, have the political experience required to run for any seats right now in the upcoming elections. But then people would be wondering the fact that you have, a long, experience in the private sector. You have worked in when it comes to the civil society sector as well, or the community, the charitable sector, or not-for-profit sector. You have worked there equally as well. So is it until you go into politics before you can bring the desired change that you require or that you yearn to see?
I think, okay, maybe let me just say that I've worked mainly in public sector. Even when I was working in NGOs, I've not worked for any profit-making institution. So I will not say I've worked in the private sector. All my work has been in the public, whether mainly non-government, but public service or public area. Yes, politics is the highest level of engagement. And if you really want to bring about fundamental change, you have to engage in actually demonstrating leadership. Demonstrating, if you are challenging the state that they are not doing this, they are not doing that, you have to yourself now begin to think about, yes, how can we show this is the way it should be done? When we talk about an MP, it means that first and foremost, you are there to represent people, and I've been representing people all my life as an activist. So now I'll be seeking for a legitimate mandate to do that, and to effectively represent people. This has been a missing link in the parliament. People go to parliament to represent themselves or to represent their parties without any independent ideas or philosophies to guide them. So what I will do as an MP, first and foremost, to ensure effective representation, I will ensure that I have an office in my constituency where, in the case that I win the elections, I will have an office in the constituency so that people have access to me. I have to listen to people. What are the issues, This is a very broad area. People in this constituency have a very broad social areas and economic areas of interest. So you have to listen to different people. You cannot represent people if you don't meet with them regularly. So not only will I have weekly one-to-one meetings with individuals or groups of people and to listen to their ideas, and also to discuss issues of community development and national issues, I'll also hold monthly town hall meetings with various parts of my constituency.
But some people would say running as an independent candidate is not a justification, or a justification that this is how you would operate. Some would say we have a lot of parliamentarians, a lot of people who are holding different offices, and they are actually performing well. They are, going down to the people, holding meetings, engaging with the community, engaging with people, still yet at the same time, carrying on the affairs of their party, doing all that their party requires in line, or working in line with their party's agenda, probably for the term or for the year. So being an independent candidate does not really bring any much difference to the table.
No, it does. It does, because, what we have in Sierra Leone really are not, we don't have serious political parties that believe in ideas, that believe in big philosophy and economic thinking. They just carry on the economic agendas that have been set by outsiders, mainly IMF, World Bank. So whether it's SLPP or APC, you find out that most of them are even boasting, oh, this person has worked, for this agency or that agency or the IMF and World Bank. They don't really have differences in real agenda or political agenda.
One would say it's justifiable given the fact that Sierra Leone is not an island on its own. It works, in partnership with many local and international partners, organizations, even other countries as well.
But I'm not saying we cannot work with outsiders. I'm saying that we are not setting our own agenda in terms of what we want. It's other institutions and other economic ideas that are really setting the agenda for us. And for me, this is not good. We are not having any serious debate as to what kind of politics, what kind of economic thinking we want, and what is going to benefit us. If you listen to, say, for example, Samura Kamara, who was interviewed in you can search for this in YouTube. He was interviewed in Ghana when he was vying to lead the African Development Bank. And then the journalist asked him, he was asked why Sierra Leoneans not benefiting from their mineral wealth, and then he said that, we are only getting 3% from our mineral. So foreign companies, especially foreign-owned private companies, meaning that, and then this journalist was shocked. How can you allow your country's strategic minerals and industry to be owned by foreign companies, and the people of Sierra Leone only get 3% from it? And he said, this is what the IMF told us, or international partners. So for me, it shows there and then really we don't have our own agenda.
But one would say he who plays the piper calls the shots.
So why do
if you look at, first of all, there's a whole lot going on with Sierra Leone that a lot of people would say needs to be fixed. First of all, from the educational sector to the agricultural sector to the health sector. Now, if you're also looking at a lot of, as you've pointed, the minerals and how Sierra Leone is under benefiting from it, one would also tend to ask, what are the human capacity or capabilities that Sierra Leone has, to contribute to this sector?
This is the problem. I think some of the journalists and even the media, I think, have failed to begin to ask the serious questions. We are asking the small questions and not looking at the big, serious questions. The most important thing about the minerals is about ownership and beneficiation. Who is benefiting from our minerals? The other question about the human capacity, that's a secondary concept. Because when you put your laws and you want, this is what you think is going to benefit your people, and these are the laws. In some countries are even changing. Why is Botswana benefiting? It's not because they allowed foreign agencies to prescribe for them the solutions. They put their feet down and say, this is what we want. So foreign companies come and abide by those rules. So these are the big questions. For me, the issue of beneficiation of our minerals is key. Why do we have to give away our minerals 100% foreign owned? This is wrong. Even people who have benefited from the minerals do not accept laws like this. We have to have a system whereby we, as a country, as a people, we have key stake and control in the mineral sector. It's happening all over now. And secondly, we have to ensure that not only that we have co-ownership of mining companies, because we have the land, we have the minerals. Whatever machines or capacity you have is useless if the minerals are not there. So you are coming to benefit from our raw materials. We should benefit from your human capacity and your equipment and your resources. So we are talking about 50-50 benefit from our minerals. But we are not, because the agenda is set by outsiders. And we are following this kind of thinking that we don't have the capacity. Look, when companies want to come and operate in your country and you have minerals, when they even want to build train stations or train lines, they come and build it. So if you have a law that says that, one, we have to have co-ownership, not individuals, state co-ownership of mines. And secondly, and this is very important, we have to have a law to ensure that some of the minerals or part of the minerals, for a start at least, is processed locally. Without that, we are not going to have any economic transformation. So these are the core fundamental issues about beneficiation and about, imagine if we produce, just 30% even of our iron ore locally. Imagine the millions of jobs we are creating. But because we are not thinking, we are just saying, okay, we don't have the resources, so people can come and exploit. This is what we are saying. And so I am going to challenge that economic thinking, because it's not going to take us anywhere. Forever we'll continue to be poor, forever if we continue to accept this economic agenda as the accepted knowledge. We have to challenge it.
Now, you've mentioned what a lot of people would tell you, it's an open secret, or everyone or Sierra Leoneans are aware of the issues. They are aware of what is happening. So the question is, how will you bring a difference? How will you make it happen? Remember, it's going to be you against all the other parliamentarians who you have mentioned are, first of all, putting their parties first before the interest of Sierra Leone. So how will you do it?
Okay. Thank you. I think that we have other emerging people who are coming in. Also, some people are vying for independent seats, a few. And maybe there are a few progressive people in other new political parties who are interested more in serving their country rather than their parties. So these people will, will form and will work together. But besides, everything starts with one single voice, and then it spreads, So by bringing about these serious issues in the parliament and raising critical issues in parliament, I think what we are doing in constituency 114 is to light a single candle, a single fire. And then over time, that fire will spread across the country. So this is just a single fire.
But some would say there are a number of people who are... There are a number of people who are in parliament who have been lighting the single fire but have not seen any headway being made.
Tell me, in the last parliament, how many independents were there? None.
Not necessarily independent, but individuals, like you have mentioned, there are some progressive individuals in other political parties who have, who want to see the best for Sierra Leone. And those people, as you have mentioned, are obviously lighting the candle in their own capacity to bring about change. But if it's not happening, then what difference are you going to bring? And how will you achieve it? Take, for example, maybe if there is no other independent candidates also going for the seat or probably elected into parliament, how will you make it happen?
As I told you, we are starting with a single voice. A single voice can change a community, can change a country. So we have to have a single voice. And also, just because other people tried different methods and maybe they failed, I don't know these people you're mentioning, doesn't mean that other people will not succeed. So people have different methods of working. People have different...
So what would be your method?
I will engage in parliament, in serious debate in parliament. I will put forward private member motions, several of them. In fact, I've already started to write up a series of bills that I will want to put forward for economic justice, and economic freedom. I will put them forward and put them for debate. And then the people of Sierra Leone will see who are the people who really seriously or genuinely represent their interests, and those who don't represent their interests, and what they stand for, And then, if that fails, I don't think that I will be the only person in this country who has been talking about economic justice. There are still people in the country, even NGOs, people who are talking about democracy and economic justice every day in the country. And we have various associations, community organizations. We have trade unions who have been talking about economic justice. And of course, one of the things I want to push forward is the issue of workers in this country. Nobody's talking about the issue of workers, the working people of this country, their condition. Why are people being paid poverty wages in this country? Why, are people one of the poorest people in the world in terms of really earning a living wage? There's no discussion even of a living wage. They're still talking about minimum wage. These are serious questions. So I will be a voice for the working people of this country. I will be a voice for the suffering people, the farmers, the rural, the unemployed people in this country. And like I said, just one single voice, is the beginning. We have to light the fire. We have to start somewhere. And then over time, it will spread. Working with people, I don't think that I can do it alone. But I think that with the support of my constituency and the whole working people of Sierra Leone will add their voices to some of the issues I'm talking about. The unemployed youths, the suffering masses will add their voices and take control. So it's about really people as Sierra Leoneans taking control of their lives.
Okay,
so I will just be a spark.
But then again, we've seen time and time again, lots of people come forward with good intentions. A lot of people come forward with great ideas, what they will do or not do if elected into a certain position. But the moment they get into that position, we see like the coin flips. Mm-hmm. They don't actually get to follow through on the promises, mm-hmm. on their agenda, on their manifesto. So what makes your own case different? Well,
I mean, this is always, even when I talk to people in the community, I've been talking to people in their houses, I meet people at home, you know, they always raise this issue, oh, the politicians come every time and they tell us these good ideas and then they disappear, you know, and then once they are in there, but I'm not going into politics because of any material benefits, you know, otherwise I would have stayed on, you know, doing other work, you know. And I think that one chief, I was speaking to one chief in Old Wharf who said that, yes, people come all the time and lie to us, but we don't give up because we don't know who is the right person who really genuinely, we cannot tell. It's like having 7, 8, 10 children. You know, you cannot say, okay, because this first one has gone astray, maybe all the other children will be like this one. So the chief said, we keep believing and we believe you. We keep believing in you because we know you and we believe in you and we think that you are genuine. You know, so I will make sure that we break that history of saying, oh, people come and lie and tell the people good things and then they disappear. I will try hard to make sure that at least I will be a single example. If not, I hope more examples will come of people who said they believe in something and followed it through. And we have had history of people who stand up for something all over the world, who actually stand up for something and they don't compromise, they believe in what they believe and they stand by it. And I've done, you know, for over 20 years, I stand by my ideas and I've not changed for whatever reasons, you know, and I'm guided by these things that I believe in. So okay. I don't think that overnight I'm going to change. I want to be part of those who are going to make history in Sierra Leone.
Okay. Well, before I let you go, you know, a lot of people will say, I'm joining a political party because it makes it easier to win. Mm-hmm. The political parties bring the number. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, we know in Sierra Leone, a lot of people don't vote because they know what the issues are. Mm-hmm. They just vote because it is a green party, it's a red party, it's a white party, whatever party. So a lot of people vote based on party. Mm-hmm. Hence, some candidates who are vying for certain positions win based on the popularity of their party. Mm-hmm. So in that case, how popular are you to you know, win you this parliamentary seat that you're gunning for?
Well, I think only the elections can prove that. I can say how popular people know me. I grew up, you know, I spend most of my time in that community. A lot of people know me, but only the elections will prove that, you know, I've won. It's not just about popularity. It's about winning people over to your convictions and ideas. I think this is the politics. People might not know you, but when you talk to them and they listen to your ideas, then they come and say, oh, okay, we seem to believe this person and we support you.
So I guess the question would be, how prepared are you and how are you getting people to vote for you?
Yes, I have young people, volunteers who are knocking doors, who are going street to street, and we are doing that. Attire base to attire base, street to street, to pass our message, because we have to do our own differently. We cannot be singing and dancing, just, colors and people follow you. No, we have to educate the people. So that's what I'm doing. I'm talking to people in their houses, meeting people in their homes, meeting people where they sit and talk, to put forward my ideas. And so far, I think those I've spoken to, I'm very hopeful that the more people I speak to, the more converts I get into my train of radical politics and economic change, economic transformation and justice.
Well, on that note, I just say thank you for joining us. We've been talking to Karim Bah, who is an independent candidate gunning or vying for the parliamentary seat for constituency 114, one of the new constituencies that have been created. And we say thank you for joining us. We wish you all the best and
thank you very
good
much.
luck in your independence campaign to enter the parliament, the walls of
much.
parliament. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back.